Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is Jason, also known as Ominous Prime, and today we're going to be taking a look at episode 4, season 1 for Reacher, and I'm going to be comparing it to the book by Lee Child called Killing Floor, which the series is based off of. Now, before we get into this, I did want to say thank you to all of you that have subscribed to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can keep up with the series that I'm releasing here as we go episode by episode. But otherwise, I do appreciate the activity, people coming by and taking a look at the videos, and it means a whole lot to me that you do. I do put a lot of time and a lot of effort of getting content up to my channel as much as possible. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video here. All right, here we go. All right, we got Spivey sitting in the trunk. Two guys that Reacher had just dispatched at the end of the last episode. He's going ahead and taking care of the evidence that he's left behind of what happened, and also looking for any clues. In the book, kind of tells Finley kind of the gist of what happened as far as him having to defend himself. Reacher had made claims that he was too big to fit in the trunk, so he's having to make some accommodations here to squeeze 3 people into the back of this vehicle. Yep, always got the puns. Yep, so in the book, it's not stated this, but it's pretty clear that Charlie doesn't know what her husband's actually up to for the past year. Now, this is Joe Reacher's rental vehicle. One of the things that's pointed out here in the book is if you're going to commit a crime, it's smarter to take the stolen vehicle, as it were, or a vehicle involved in a crime, drive it to an airport parking lot, and leave it there. When you do a fire, it actually draws attention and an investigation of what's going on. And now we have Roscoe in the scene. It's off duty, so no more ponytail. Yep. You can kind of do the same thing with Coca-Cola. Yep, here we go. Now, the whole keeping an eye on him and following him around and stuff like that wasn't really a thing in the book. Roscoe was willingly being around Reacher because the chemistry that they were having, because they had done a lot of sleeping together at this point already in the book. He was staying with her at that point. Yeah, this conversation about Baghdad and stuff like that wasn't a thing that was in the book. It's more so towards the end of the book that this kind of conversation happens between Reacher and Roscoe. This flashback to what's going on here is not a thing that's in the book. For one, the time period that Reacher was written in, he wouldn't have been there. I believe in the book he was in, I think it was Beirut that he was at. It was in the news a lot during the 80s. So when he was there, and this is told in the next book, it's only went over kind of briefly. He had, this is how he got one of his medals. He got a Purple Heart, and it had to do with him getting shrapnel in his tummy area. So he has this weird scar that's there, at least that's what's described in the book. He has a number of scars in the book that you don't really see on Richson here. He had taken shrapnel, and despite his injuries, he went to rescue his fellow soldiers and was able to help get them out. So it goes to illustrate the kind of person he is, where he's a little bit more selfless, but also kind of not thinking too much about himself in terms of taking care of himself whenever situations rise. And this is hiding a vehicle at the airport. So this is them being consistent with what was in the book. And Roscoe is committing a crime. How much you would need for the cows, and that there's cows everywhere in Georgia. Like I mentioned last episode, instead of having a Bentley, they went with Jaguar. Seems like perhaps the showrunners were not able to get license for the show. The name things is a thing that they do in the book as well, but they're kind of setting up some ground rules, like as it were, how, aliases that people pick. And this thing with the toothpicks is not in the book. It's interesting, that they put this in here, but it's not a thing in the book. All right. My guess is they couldn't get authorization to film at an airport, or it was too expensive to do that scene, so they changed it to a train station. The conversation in the book was essentially just her confirming how proud Joe was of his younger brother, that he talked about him all the time, that he was proud of him. And this made Reacher uncomfortable because this was something that Reacher wasn't aware of, and he would not be able to build upon that relationship with his brother now. They had distance between each other, so it's something that he's lost and he can't ever get back. And it just reinforces that this was taken from him, something that he didn't know that he was going to miss as much as he is. And it's something that now that these two share together. So now Reacher's left to think about this and doesn't know how to deal with it. He's lost both his parents, and now without his brother, he's got no one else that has been a part of his life of traveling around as part of the military. And Richardson does such a good job as Reacher. Yeah, she says he's a good man here. However, earlier in the day, she was like, "You lied to me. You shot people in the back." The point I was making to my wife here is, I believe in just about every episode, Richardson has to take his shirt off. All right, so they had a little fun last night to kind of get Reacher's mind off of things. Now Roscoe in the show was all yeah, this thing that happened is not really a thing. We just did some things, but hey, don't look too much into it. In the book, nope. She's a lot more passionate about what's been going on and how she doesn't ever want to see him leave her side. And he's pretty much on board with that. He's like, Yeah, you're my lady. These are Pete Jobling's parents. Pete Jobling is the driver that was kind of like subcontracted for Kleiner, that had Kleiner's lawyers bail him out of a situation when he was in Florida. So this is them following up on that lead just to see if they can get any additional information. This is somewhat how it is in the book with this interaction. Still think he's a good man? Now, as much as I enjoy this actor here, last thing I saw him in, and this is just because I rewatched the movie, was Time Cop. And I've, I've seen him in other things. He's a memorable actor. His face is easily recognized. Um, but usually, when he shows up, he's a bad guy. Wasn't in Time Cop, but he's a bad guy almost all the time. And here he likes giving Finley the what of what's happening in town, and he's in charge. And those of you who've had bosses like this, I'm sure, know exactly how Finley feels. Now, see, this is where things get a little murky because Charlie here is supposed to know kind of what Hubble, her husband, was into because they didn't keep it a secret. In the book, Hubble knows the people that are involved. He just doesn't name who they are before he disappears. So, my leap to conclusions here is that Hubble would have told his wife, if she knew about him being without work and what he was into, he would have told her the people that are also involved, because I know my spouse would ask who else is involved. And I know me, I would tell her. But in the book, she was kept in the dark. She didn't know what was going on. She had no clue where her husband was. So she didn't have any clue about anything that was going on that would impact her or the safety of her kids. Now, this person here is kind of like, well, it's hard to say she was a gold digger because Jobling wasn't like a rich guy. However, he was able to go ahead and get the house. Everything's paid off. And then we have those air conditioning boxes there. She said that Jobling was moving around. And the home is in a nice neighborhood. And for some reason, it's thought of that a truck driver should not be able to earn money to live in such a nice place, which I don't find to be too accurate because, at least it used to be, not in today's economy, but it used to be that a truck driver could earn a pretty good wage depending on how much they wanted to work. In the book, when they're taking a look at the boxes, they see that there's like serial numbers on there and more information. Now they're just trying to figure out exactly what was going on here. Their belief that he was taking counterfeit money out of Margrave and getting them shipped out of Florida. Now Roscoe's look is a little bit interesting here because she's on duty, so she's got a ponytail, but she's also off duty because she's in plainclothes. This does happen in the book. However, I thought it was a little weird that it happened in this way, that they needed to go through FBI to search through that, because it's something Roscoe could have done on her computer over at work, had she had gone into the office. And it's something that Finley could also have done in the office without having to ask. Yeah, this is where they find out that somebody else has beat them to the punch here. For some reason, had the information already. But yeah, getting the VIN information here for where Joe had rented the vehicle and where he was staying. They basically came with a reason for it to be done. Thing is, he knows his brother well enough that he doesn't keep the important stuff in like a briefcase. He keeps it where he could find it in his clothes. Now, that piece of paper is important because it's that torn off corner is that paper that was torn off there was found in the shoe of Joe Reacher when he was killed. So the rest of the information they needed is on that paper, at least it's believed. And Roscoe's upset because nobody bothered to chase after her, as if she was insignificant, not important. For some reason, it's a big deal in the show here. She's thought of as just as important as Reacher is, and that she can handle things just as well, having to prove herself. Whereas for the most part, I don't think I've seen anybody challenge her abilities as far as saying, well, you're just a woman or anything like that. It almost comes off as if she has like a phantom antagonist that's doing that. Although she wants to call out Reacher in the way of saying that he's being macho by trying to fight these people on his own, thinking that she would not be an asset in the fight. Whereas in his mind, at least in the book, he's just trying to protect somebody that he cares about. And now he can't question this guy for any information. That's some domestic abuse kind of stuff there. Jeez. Bring it down a notch. He ain't slapping you around either. In Japan, that would almost be like a confession. I believe they do the same kind of thing in South Korea. In the States, not exactly. At least it's not a thing. Not in not in the way that it's done there. But she's having that reaction that seems similar. Now at this point, my wife already figured out what Picard's thing is, what's going on with him. I didn't see it yet, so I was a little blind to it. But yeah, for those of you who already seen the show, you already know what kind of person Picard is. And that's where I was getting at, that Charlie should have kind of already known about Picard. At least, by hearing his name. Because I'm pretty sure that her husband already knew about him. Sounds like a good time for a flashback. Oh, here we go. Now they're having to apologize for the beating up of a bully that Joe's blamed for, but Jack did. Yeah, Okinawa was a nice place to be. But when I was in Okinawa, and I lived there for 7 years, base housing did not look like this, especially if you were a Marine. And that look just shows that their parents aren't dumb. They know who did what. Now you got E Pluribus Unum. It's already, spelled out for you, again, if you watched it. Explained in the book in a similar way. One from many, and it's normally what it would say, but here it's backwards, many from one. And these are the numbers for the, I believe it's 2 professors, and I think a cop in the book, but oh, that's right. Uh, in the book, these people are involved, were previously involved with counterfeiting and how it was done, and now are professors at university. And they had worked in ways of how counterfeiting is done, so that they're experts of it. They were able to go ahead and give Reacher insight on what they had explained to Joe. Now, the PI here that they're bringing in is not in the book. So Neagley here is a pure invention of the show. I'm not sure why it was done, unless it was to bring a specific type of character to the show that they needed to fulfill some checkbox for. And it's really out of place here, at least if you're looking at the book itself, because Reacher is a loner, at least since he's left the military. At this point, he's been out 13 months. He wasn't involved with any outfit outside of the military. He's just been walking around, as he puts it, as a hobo, traveling around, doing whatever he wants, not going on any missions. And this is the first thing he got caught up in. And the only reason that he got caught up in it is because his brother was involved. If his brother had not been one of the victims, he would have just moved on, let everybody else deal with it, because it wasn't his problem. Now, they kind of do the separation here that occurred in the airport. At the airport, there was like a glass divider that they had to get around so they can get to her, but the crowd was moving in the opposite direction of where they needed to get to, so it was difficult, and there was separation. And effectively, the same thing happens. And the thing that happens here is the closest thing that he has to anybody that could tell him more about his brother is gone. The only other person that shared any connection like he had, in a way, meaning that they both loved his brother, that's now been taken away from him again. All right, and that's the end of episode 4. Thank you for coming out and taking a look at my video here. Leave any comments below, anything you would like to add to the conversation. If you read Killing Floor and you have anything that I missed that you'd like to point out, it's a good place to do it. If you have any feedback for me, anything I can do to improve the videos, please let me know. And until then, I'll see you next time.